last week we picked back up with our lesson on Christian finances and money in the Bible. And we talked about budgeting, and we used Luke 15:11 through 17, talked about the prodigal son, and that he's not a good example of budgeting, and that many people in our country today are in a similar situation, that the money's gone before they have it, right? Money's spent before you get it. We also looked at Proverbs 21, beginning in verse 17, where Solomon talks about the foolish person devouring all, but the wise save some. So we talked about that. And then we got into, just what is the process of budgeting that you have to think about. Monthly expenses, quarterly expenses, annual expenses, the little things that you don't even think about, like spending money when you're just out and you buy a burger or coffee or whatever, those kind of things. So you have to consider all that. And the important part of budgeting is, of course, that you have to actually stick to it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. If you have a budget and you go over it, then it doesn't do you any good. And also, if you don't track it and see how you're doing compared to what you budgeted. Where we ended, and this is this is an interesting thing to try to do for a Bible class as far as just to talk through, but whenever I was doing this lesson many, many years ago, I came up with a list of ideas, and some of these ideas probably don't even necessarily make sense anymore. Well, most of them probably do still, but some ideas just for saving money. So whenever you're budgeting, if you have an area in your budget that you would like to try to cut down, well, here's some ideas, potential, and there's a bunch of them here. So I'll just kind of go down through. It's like a kind of long list. And you guys can probably think of your own ideas for this as well. But one thing, don't carry too much cash and only withdraw it when you need it. Now, what does that keep you from doing? From overspending, like doing that what I was talking about, that cash that goes and you don't even know where it went, right? Because you don't track what you pull out of your wallet. Now then, a difference in today than more so is, we talked about this earlier, credit cards are actually more dangerous than cash, because when you pay cash, you actually know that you're paying out the cash. When you're doing a credit card, there's studies that find that it doesn't trigger the same emotions or whatever you call it in your brain that says, oh, I'm spending money. So you're more willing to do so. So a credit card can actually be more dangerous than cash when it comes to that spending money where you don't want to. But even so, it's still the point is to limit the amount that you're spending where you're not even counting for it, where it just goes and you don't even know where it went. Avoid paying full price for anything. I mean, there's sales all the time, right? Now then, I think that the sales are actually designed in a way where you're actually paying full price for it, like what they actually want. But if you pay full price, you're paying way more than what they want, because everything goes on sale. Vehicles, you see commercials, they go on sale, right? Clothing, you go to the store, they're on sale, right? So everything goes on sale. So never pay full price for anything unless you absolutely have to. And if you have something that a big purchase, you should be able to hopefully time it, save the money and time it where you're getting a sale price as a better price. Use coupons. Nowadays, how do you do coupons? They're all electronic, right? You don't have to go clip them. There's apps and all that sort of stuff. So you can just get an app and on your phone and clip coupons and use coupons that way. You don't even have to look like you're using coupons at the store. The stigma of somebody handing a whole pile of coupons to somebody or whatever, that doesn't have to happen. Now you can just do it electronically. Rebates. I don't know that rebates are as much of a thing anymore. At the time that I did this lesson several years ago, there were a lot of rebates out there. You could get stuff for free. Like they'd put them on sale and then you get a rebate after it, but you'd have to mail it in and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if that's still happening much or not, but use rebates. Be willing to shop at Benton Dent or volume places like Sam's Club, Aldi's, BJ's, Or Benton Dent shops. There's actually places called Benton Dent, I think. But anyway, be willing to go and find some discount stuff. Thrift shops, secondhand stuff. You can find some good deals on that sort of stuff if you need to. Beware of how much you're spending for insurance. You get locked into insurance and you just let it roll year after year after year. If you don't ever shop for it, it just keeps going up and up and up. A lot of times companies, I know we've dealt with this, like our insurance company kept jacking it, and then we left them, and then whenever we came back, it went back lower again. So it's like if they know they have you locked in, they just keep raising the price. So make changes every so often. Look for, of course, you can get discounts for multi-policy things and stuff like that. I know our thinking on insurance, and some it depends on your situation, but ours was always you pay as little as you can for insurance, and just assume if you followed some of the other things that we've talked about, where you have money in your account, that's there in case you need it for like to buy a vehicle if you were to wreck or something. So we always carried like only the liability side if we could. Obviously, if you have debt on it, you have to carry full coverage. But if you own your car and you don't have any debt on it, an option would be just liability only, at least in certain states, not in every state, I think. But so you can save money that way, and then insurance really is insurance. It's only what you absolutely have to have it for, and you save money that way. A big one here, and this is probably bigger today, though it's different. I said reduce or eliminate cable television. You can spend a lot of money on cable television. Nowadays, it would be, I guess, more subscription services. Like how many subscription services do you have out there that you're spending for? Those little $10 subscriptions per month can add up real quick if you have a bunch of them. And then so it's just assume that you have 10 of them. That's $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. So it can add up pretty quickly. Phone costs. A lot of phone places will advertise get something for free, get a free phone. It's never a free phone. Like when you get those plans, you're paying for the phone over the time period. Like your monthly fee is jacked. It's higher over that period of time. So look into what the cheapest options are and what you actually need. Obviously, I'm not telling you to get less than what you need, but look for the options there. There's lots of companies out there that aren't necessarily don't have as big of a name or aren't as flashy, but they can give you the same service or the service that you need for less money. Internet, that's another one. Same kind of thing as insurance. Shop it around occasionally. Don't get more than what you need. A lot of people are paying full price and don't need the speed that they're like they'll charge you more for higher speed or whatever, and you don't ever even use the higher speed. So you're paying more there or things like that. If you own property, look for any real estate tax reductions that you can get. In Pennsylvania, that's pretty important. I don't know what all is available for everybody. I know there's things out there for farms and for homestead exemptions and for clean and green programs. I'm not sure what all else there is, but I mean, whatever your situation is, check into it and see what you can get. Turn off lights. I guess that's not as important now anymore with the LEDs, right? But you're still using electricity, so there's no reason to have like every light in the house on when you don't need it.
It matters.
Yeah, it's not as much, but it's still there. It's still important. Back when I did this, I don't think there was such a thing as LED lights originally when I came up with this list. So it was even more than, a 60-watt light was a 60-watt light. It wasn't 10 or whatever it is now, but that's the way it was. Set the AC and the heat to whatever minimums or maximums that you can take. Like, you don't have to be perfectly comfortable the entire time and have it set to 69 or 70 or whatever it is. You can go a little higher, a little bit lower, depending. What was that? If you're going to work, if you drive a long way, carpool if possible. Take turns, share the costs on that. Get rid of unnecessary subscriptions. That kind of goes back to the streaming, but that can be in other places as well if you have other subscriptions. Set a limit before going shopping if you're just going shopping for the fun of it. Like, how much am I willing to spend before you go? So that you don't just spend whatever. Plan ahead when traveling. Look for discount airfares and other deals that you can get. Usually, it's not a good idea to get a credit card with an annual fee. Usually. Sometimes it might be worth it. There again, it's your own personal situation. What are you using? What do you get out of it? And once again, if you're subscribing to Ramsey, don't get a credit card at all. But, that all depends on your personal situation there again. Never carry a balance on a credit card. Everybody knows that, right? You never carry a balance, because if you do, you're getting charged a lot of interest. Take advantage of low interest offers if you're going to go into debt. Once again, not necessarily encouraging that, but take advantage of that. Gas card. Get rewards on your gas cards, right? Or when you buy gas. And DP's the big, he's not here today. He went to the beach on us. But yeah, he's the big upside proponent. And use upside and get money back for what you're doing. Yeah, he's using upside to go to the beach. Yeah. What else do we got? Of course, limit spending on entertainment. And then, of course, when we talked about if you're in debt, pay off debts as early as possible. Get them down. Refinance loans for lower interest rates, which hasn't been the case for a long time, but may be coming up here at some point in the not too distant future, that we might have some dropping of interest rates that might benefit people. Once again, energy related in the summertime, close your blinds to keep heat from getting in. Wintertime, open them up, try to get sun in. Just some common sense stuff. On cool nights, you can open up your windows if you want to cool off a little bit. If you're a senior citizen, you can use your discounts. Don't let people just don't feel like you're not allowed to ask for it. I guess you would say. Also, people with low incomes may qualify for assistance with utility bills and things like that. So you can look for the programs that are out there for that. Don't take trips, don't take 5 trips for something that you could do in 1 trip if you plan properly. Planning again, just plan it out. And then also look at, when you're talking food and other products and things like that, you don't have to get brand names. Like sometimes the brand name is better than the off-brand. Sometimes the off-brand is just as good as the brand name. It just depends. So try it, see if you like it or not. And if it's just as good, you can save a lot of money that way as well. Anyway, that was a list of things that I had come up with to just think about. But all of that can factor in as you're trying to determine your budget and how much needs to go in to various things and ways of limiting what's in there. Anybody have anything I missed or comments or?
Take advantage of the gamblers and smokers in Pennsylvania. Get your kids cheap insurance.
Okay, yeah, there's insurance programs available for CHIP, yep. Okay, yep. And at work, we've talked about this before. If your employer offers you benefit programs, take advantage of them to what you need, like 401k plans. Make sure you at least contribute enough to get the match. Insurance plans and benefits with health benefits and things like that. Whatever makes sense. Once again, each person or each family probably has their own situation, but whatever actually makes sense for you, analyze it. A lot of people, I know each year that our renewal comes up, we look at it and, there's like with vision, we only ever do vision every other year because we only need glasses every other year. So there's no reason to carry it. But a lot of people just carry it, just roll it and roll it through. So you pay for it for a year that you're not even using it. But whenever you have that open enrollment, make the appropriate changes to your benefits there. Also, a public service announcement here. Make sure that your beneficiaries are up to date because a lot of people don't ever do that. And situations change, and then you have the wrong beneficiary on. And we've come across this some at work too, where somebody dies, and then one of their relatives is asking about the 401k plan or whatever, and it's like, well, this is what we have on record, and it's not you. So, but there's nothing you can do. I mean, like whatever records we have, that's what we got. So make sure that you have that up to date. Stuff.
You want to avoid probate.
Yeah.
Where it goes through
Yeah.
the court system.
Yep. You want to avoid probate, so it's always good to have a will on hand, or a trust or something set up for that. All right. So that kind of concludes that part. Now then, like I said, one of the keys to all of this is then tracking it. We get lazy. We don't like to track stuff, and we don't like to go back and look at what it is. So one of the important things is, I think we're ready for Matthew 18, 21 through 35 here, Dave, is reconciling your checkbook. Now, how many of you actually keep a paper checkbook at this point? Several of you still do, okay? And how often do you reconcile it?
Every time I get a statement.
Okay, that's monthly then, I assume. Monthly, which is what you want to do. And there's certain things that you have to do in order to be able to reconcile your checkbook. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, Dave, did you want to read Matthew 18, 21 through 35? Or Jimmy's going to read? All right.
Then came Peter and said to him, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Until 7 times? Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, who would make a reckoning with his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him that owed him 10,000. This talent was probably worth 200 pounds or 1,000 talents. But forasmuch as he had not wherewith to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. And the Lord of that servant, being moved with compassion, released him and forgave him the debt. But that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 shillings, and he laid hold on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay what thou owest. So this fellow servant fell down and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison, till he should pay that which was due. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were exceedingly sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord called him unto him, and said to him, Thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou besoughtest me. It's hard to read ASV. Shouldest not thou also have had mercy on thy fellow servant, even as I had mercy on thee? And his Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due. So shall also my heavenly Father do unto you, if ye forgive not every one of his brother from your hearts.
All right. So this. How the American Standard? You probably just forgot the new whenever you pulled it, because we usually use the New American Standard, or I do anyway. So, yeah, that's probably what happened. And the New American Standard only uses the these and the thouists and stuff like that when it's specifically referring to God, which I still don't understand why they do that. But most of it doesn't. But yeah. Anyway, version aside, most everybody here is probably pretty familiar with this parable. What's the main point that Jesus is making in this parable? Well, no, that's not number one. What's his main point?
Well, if somebody forgives you your debt, you should forgive somebody.
Okay, it's about forgiveness, right? It's a parable about forgiveness. This isn't really about money. This is about forgiveness. But he uses money, like what we talked about many a time here, to illustrate the forgiveness part of it. So the parable is actually about forgiving people, but he uses money. And so what would the king here who's settling these debts, what would he have to have in order to be able to settle debts?
A whole lot of money.
Money, and he'd have to have records, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here, records. He'd have to keep track of what people owed him. On the flip side, the servant would have had to be keeping track of what he owed people, right? So, but anyway, the point, I know this isn't really the emphasis here, but I thought it was kind of a good little story to talk about the importance to link it to keeping track of our finances. It goes back to what we started with back a while ago. You have to analyze your financial condition, know what your assets and liabilities are. And then along with that, you need to budget and have a budget and track it. And then along with that, in order to know how much money you have to track it in your checkbook or whatever you use. There's a couple of different ways that you can do a checkbook these days. There's probably not a whole lot of paper checks being written. A few. But I know way less than what it used to be at this point. So he had to have good records. And this is the same with the people, if you remember back in Luke 14, 26 through 33, that we read, I forget if it was last week or a couple weeks back. Excuse me. The builder had to determine if he had enough funds to build the building that he was building. Same thing with the king, had to look at his army and determine if the army was large enough to fight his enemy, right? So you have to be able to take stock. And we have to keep good records to know what we have and whether we are meeting our goals and whether we can do what we want to do. And in order to use our money wisely, we have to be able to track that. So that means we have to go back and look at what has happened over periods of time. You know, we talked about you can do monthly. You should look at it probably monthly and annually is the main way you would do it. You do it every month for certain things and then annually for certain things. But the monthly part would be the checkbook. You have to definitely look over your checkbook. So, Dave, if you could pull up that do you have the PowerPoint that I had sent? All right, so it's called Summing It All Up because we're heading toward the end here. I don't know how much longer we'll have, if it'll be another couple weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, but we're headed toward the end of our lessons here. Do I not have that on? I do not. There we go. There we go. Okay. So reconciling your checkbook. So, of course, you have to make sure to enter all transactions in your checkbook. And this is where it gets messy because sometimes we forget, and that's when it really gets messy to reconcile. Reconcile your bank statement monthly. The more months that need to be reconciled, and this goes for even bigger things like at work. If we let something go more than a month, it can become very hard to find. So it's just harder. And then check off everything in your checkbook that appears on your bank statement, because that means that you have it and the bank has it. Now, most of you guys, I'm sure here, most everybody in here does this, reconciles your bank statement and is used to that. Believe it or not, I think there's a lot of people out there that don't ever do that. That don't ever have any idea, and they just, whatever's in the bank, that's what it is. But we don't want to do that. We want to know what we got. What happens if you go that way? Well, maybe nothing, but on occasion the bank might make a mistake. Yeah, might make a mistake. Yeah, more likely than not will make a mistake at some point. Somebody might draw something against your account that they're not, like double bill you or things like that if you have automatic payments and things like that. Plus, you don't know exactly how much you have because you might have written checks against that that haven't come out yet. So if you look and say, oh, I have this much in my bank account, that might not be what's there. So if you don't do this process, you really can't know what you have, and you might lose money if there's a mistake made on your account. So that's why it's very important to do that. There are 3 different ways you can reconcile your checkbook, different methods, I would say. One is to start with the bank balance and then add the deposits from your checkbook and take off the checks and see if you get back to where you're supposed to be per your checkbook. Or you can take your checkbook balance, add the debits from the bank statement, and deduct the checks from the bank statement and go the other way. Or you can, it's okay, Everly. And then also there's like, these days there's apps, once again, I talk about apps. I don't use any of them, but I know there's apps out there that if you pay a little bit of money, will track all that. Like if you're using electronic stuff, they'll track what comes in, what goes out, like and then you can do that. I think all you have to do for that is actually plug in your bank statement balance when it comes in, and it should run the rec. So that's really easy at that point. You can use Excel if you track it that way. Like there's a number of different ways to go about it. Whatever works for you.
You can automate everything.
Yeah, you can automate. Well, anything can be automated. Yeah.
But yeah, they have apps that will tie into every single account and categorize them and everything for you.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do that. If you're doing it manually, make sure that you check mark stuff as you go to make sure that you have it. What happens if your checkbook doesn't reconcile? What do? How do you find the problem?
Write correction and then change
Change the amount on your checkbook. Well, that would be where if you're using the check marks, I mean, if you're using an auto program, it should identify here's the difference, and that should tell you, and then you can follow up on it. If it's a double charge for something that shouldn't be there, then you go back to the bank and say, hey, or the vendor or whatever, and fix it. If it's something, I mean, that would be the main thing I think that it would find, because I don't know that there'd be much else in the auto process. If it's manual, you go back and look for something that's on the bank statement that isn't in your checkbook, or vice versa, depending on which direction you're going from. So that's what the purpose of it is to make sure that something didn't get charged to you that you don't want charged to you. Let's see, I forget what I put on that next slide here. Yeah, okay, so there's just the little summary of how you can, the different methods to reconcile your checkbook. Mark all your checkbook. Also make sure you know at which point it was last reconciled. Sometimes if you don't mark that, you might run into problems. There we go. Possible reconciliation problems, redo the reconciliation calculation, double check between the checkbook and the bank statement, and re-add the checkbook. Sometimes if you're doing it manually and you don't have automation in it at all, you could have an adding error as well, where you just put the wrong thing there. So that's why Jimmy just puts the bank, just changes it, because he did a bad math, yeah. Okay. Anybody have any other tips on reconciling checkbooks and stuff before we move on? All right, now, as we head toward the end here, I just kind of have a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. This week, we're not doing a whole lot of scriptures because it just got, like I said, just kind of a hodgepodge of saving things, reconciling your bank statement, credit reports, things like that. Next week, we will do a lot more scriptures when we talk about giving and get toward the conclusion into the conclusion of everything here, summing it up like what I said there. But anyway, credit report.
You want to go back?
Go back to credit report. All right, everybody know what a credit report is? Know how to get one?
Most banks offer it for free.
Yeah, you can always go. I think I forget because Lisa always does this for us, but I think there's a place you can go online and get it for free. Every once in a while, you can get your report for free. Maybe from each one of the 3 groups that you can get it? Yeah, so you can get one from each group, and I forget how often it is, but you can get it for free. You can get it from the bank. Also, if you ever do go to get a loan or something, that they'll check your credit, and you can see it easily at that point. Whenever, of course, it'd be a good idea to know before you go do that.
Question, if you check it more than you're supposed to, does it actually affect your score?
I've heard that. I don't know.
Not if you're using like Credit Karma or something like that. Now, if you're having a credit lender run it, then yes.
Yeah, it's not when you check it. It's when, that would be my thought. Yeah, whenever you have, if you're going out and looking for different loans and you're getting a lot of people running credit checks, that'll reduce it just because, like, there's potential credit. Yeah, there's inquiries and there's potential credit issues out there going on. But so your credit report is a record of an individual's credit payment history used by credit grantors to determine whether or not to extend credit to you. Of course, we all know about scores. You want your score to be, I forget what's a perfect score, 800? 850? 850. So you want it as close to 850 as possible. We've talked about how if you don't use credit cards and don't ever develop credit, how do you get a loan? Well, you can still get a loan. It's just you have to jump through more hoops. Like you have to be able to prove more about your income and
Your interest rate's going to be higher too.
depending on what you're doing, what you're getting from. I mean, it just depends. Yeah, it depends on. But yeah, the higher scores usually get better. The higher your credit score usually comes with a better interest rate attached. So they get, they get this information, of course, from reporting that they have from banks and all those different places. So it's public record information, which can include, let me see here. So what does it include? It includes a consumer report, 4 types of information. Identifying information, who you are. That would be your name, current and previous addresses, social security number, date of birth, current and previous employers, if you're married, your spouse. Credit information includes your accounts that you have with banks, loans that you have with different creditors, retailers, different credit card issuers and different lenders. So it's all that sort of stuff. Public record information includes bankruptcies, tax liens, money judgments, anything like that you might have. And then, of course, inquiries, and that's where what you were talking about, Dave, as far as it indicates that you have applied for new credit, and that's why it would reduce your credit rating, because it indicates you've applied for new credit with other credit grantors that could result in additional debt. Potential lenders view multiple recent inquiries on your credit card as a sign that you're overextending yourself. That's kind of what gets built in there. And a credit risk score may be included when your report is provided to a credit grantor, although it's not included on consumer review reports. The ways to calculate and use a credit score vary. So a score is more dependent on who the lender is, who you're trying to get credit for, like how they would view that score for you. So yeah, we just talked about all of that. So credit risk score is a statistical summary of the information contained in a consumer's credit report, calculated by assigning numerical values to various pieces of information in the report, and it's provided to credit grantors who use them to evaluate an applicant's creditworthiness. Like I said, it depends on the creditor as to what the score that they'd be looking for. We talked about this, the 3, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. I think that's still the same. I don't think that's changed. Like I said, I did this a long time ago, and I didn't even look to make sure that was still accurate, but I think it is. Yeah. Also, there you could get it, like I said, online. 1 free report per year from each agency. And you could by mail. I don't think any of that information has changed, hopefully. It's been a while, like I said. I didn't look to see about that. But anyway, even if it has changed, you can go look and you can find it online somewhere, and that is out there. Okay. So I went too far there. All right, annuities. Who knows what an annuity is? What's an annuity?
It's a way to protect your money as you get older. You basically they'll divide it out and give you a guaranteed amount.
Guaranteed payment.
Yeah.
Yep.
The rest of your lifetime.
Potentially. There's different types of annuities. Certain annuities are guaranteed payment forever. That would typically be a level payment. Now, why do they do that? Why would somebody guarantee a payment forever?
You don't know when you're going to die.
Yeah, because it's not forever. It's based off of tables. And now I forget the word. I hate when I forget the word. The likelihood of you dying. What's the table?
I forget too.
Anyway, it's based off of tables about how long people are going to live. So, like if you're 70 and you open up an annuity and your life expectancy is 80, so this 10-year, they're expecting a 10-year payout, and they would come out potentially with more money in that situation than what they're going to pay out, because they're getting the full investment on the front end. Kind of like life insurance, the way that life insurance works. So that's the way so they're able to do that. Sometimes people live longer and they end up paying out more with an annuity than what they brought in. But on average, using life expectancy table, that's where there we go. I think I just thought of it. But anyway, that's what an annuity is set up. There's different ways that you can set up annuities. The one that Jimmy kind of was talking about there would typically be just a certain amount that you get paid each year or month, whatever, forever. There's also ones where it's increasing, like you start off with this amount of payment, kind of for inflation purposes, like you start off with this amount of payment and then it goes up and up and up, but then at some point it cuts off, like you're done. There's that kind of annuity. I think I have an example of that up in here. But they're set up to give increasing amount of payments to the owner over a period of time. So there can be different types of annuities that can be set up. But they're typically very secure, which gives you a feeling of security. So I'm not promoting annuities here or anything. I just want people to know that it's available out there. So here's the example. If you have $1 million saved for retirement and you put it into an annuity with a 5% interest rate, and it changes the payment distributed to you every 5 years, at the end of 20 years you're done. You don't get any more payment at that point, but it goes up and you get that much each period as you go. Now then, of course, the people who gave the annuity, if you were to die at a point along here, they get to keep it. So that's why they do it. That's why you can get it set up that way. So example 2 here, what if you didn't set up an annuity? Well, if you had 5% interest, you would get $50,000 a year to live off of without eating into your principal. So going back here, you get more money each year to live off of. But here, you get $50,000 a year. So if you can live off of $50,000 a year, you still have the $1 million at the end of the 20 years. So which way's better? Depends on your situation and what you want. Do you have something to fall back on if you live longer than the number of years you have the annuity set up for? Can you live off of the interest income? Is $50,000 enough? If the savings are in a tax-deferred account, you may have to treat it as an annuity, meaning that you would have to pull out a minimum of the principal. So if for a retirement plan, you have to pull out, when you reach a certain age, you have to pull out a certain amount. Now an advantage of the annuity is that you can treat it like normal income, and actually, as your income's going up, you could save a portion of that, so you're just going through the cycle again, saving as it comes in. So you could do that. What else do we have? Oh, there's giving. All right. So we're just about out of time, so we're going to start in on giving next time. But anyway, so that's annuities. I'm not terribly familiar with annuities because I've never done one myself. I did audit some at one point, and that's where how I know that that's the way it works for the financial institution. Sometimes they do end up paying more out than what they get, but a lot of times they end up getting more than what they pay out too. So it works both ways with that. So they have those tables that they use to determine how it's going to work out. All right, any questions or comments before we wrap up? All right, so next week we'll get into giving, and like I said, we'll have a lot more scriptures and discussion with that. And I don't know if we'll wrap up next week or if we'll do 2 weeks. It just depends on how much I talk and get sidetracked or whatnot. So, all right, thanks everybody, and we'll be back for worship in about 15 minutes.
Yes, my peace is you, Lord.